And here we go.
Sports!
I listen to you guys all the time.
It's awesome.
I'm in the mood for one of your classic anecdotes.
Give yourselves a round of applause.
All right, that's enough.
Hey guys, there is someone I want you to meet.
Dave Hooker Show with Caleb Calhoun on Off the Hook Sports. Represented by T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com, Tennessee's trial attorney from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln Studio, East Tennessee's #1 volume and customer service dealer, Ted Russell Ford and TedRussellLincoln.net.
Look, we're all part of the same team here.
Now to the Dave Hooker Show on Off the Hook Sports.
Goodness gracious, a lot going on. It cannot possibly be June in football country, but it is. Caleb Calhoun, how are you, sir?
I am good. How are you doing, Dave?
I'm fantastic. A lot going on today. We are going to dive into I'm all by myself here, but Joey Aguilar is just kind of tabbed as the starter for Tennessee football, and I'm not so sure that's the case. We'll dive into that. Also, Tennessee may be higher ranked in the ESPN FPI than you think. At least it surprised me. Major respect for the Vols, or analytically, at least what it looks like, and Tennessee could potentially win a national championship this year. Is that even on the table, Caleb?
Football? I mean,
Yes.
it shouldn't seem like it is, but, you know, when you have a college football playoff and you have more parity in college football now, I think anybody in the top 10 has a semi-realistic chance, right? It's not like you're saying Vanderbilt can go win a national championship.
I'm curious if you can look this up. What was Ohio State preseason last year? Also, College Football Hall of Fame, Dion has to be in. Have I done my Dion impression for you, Caleb?
Probably, but I forgot it.
Okay, well, then I'll do it again. All right, so ask me any question.
Do you think do you think Deion Grant belongs in the Hall of Fame?
Almost definitely he belongs in the fame and whatnot.
So
every sentence started with almost definitely and ended with and whatnot when I covered Deion Grant, because he's an 19-year-old kid, and it's a crutch, which we've all got crutches, but that was his at the time. So it was almost definitely Caleb Calhoun. I love doing this show with you and whatnot. you can start absolutely any sentence with that. And just real quick before we dive into it, should Deion Grant be in the Hall of Fame?
Oh, I think he should be in the Hall of Fame. Absolutely, I think he should be in the Hall of Fame. I mean, what he did that 1999 season was incredible, and then 98 was obviously still impressive too. And that interception against Florida in 98, I mean, obviously we talk about saving the season. I mean, yes, Jesse Palmer underthrew the ball slightly, but if Deion Grant doesn't go up and make that play, Florida still probably gets in they at least get into field goal range with that catch. It may be a touchdown.
Well, and I was at that game, and the guy he was throwing it to, I can't remember, but he looked bare, Caleb. I mean, he looked wide open. I still am astounded that there are a few times that you're in person at a game where you garner more than you would via TV. That's just the way things are now with all the multiple camera angles and replays. But that was one where I watched and I was like, there is no way he's getting to that ball. And what did he do?
Yeah, he got to the ball. You're right. I mean,
he did.
Sorry.
He absolutely did. All right, let's get rolling. Today's tough question brought to you by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. T. Scott Jones will join us tomorrow to join about the Zakai Ziegler lawsuit, which is interesting to me. I may be in the minority, but I'm not sure that he should be granted another year of eligibility. We'll get into that. Hit the like and subscribe button. We've got a lot going on the program. Let's go ahead and get to today's tough question, and we'll make it a poll question as well, Caleb. And it's pretty simple because I think that a lot of people think Joey Aguilar will absolutely walk in the front door at Lindsey Nelson Stadium. I'm sorry, not Lindsey Nelson Stadium, but at Neyland Stadium and be the starter. I'm not so sure. Caleb, where do you stand on that?
I think Joey Aguilar is the favorite. I think he's the favorite for one key reason, and I'm gonna tell a dirty little secret here that I think is out. I don't think they ever. I think Jake Merklinger Jake Merklinger is ahead of George McIntyre right now. I don't think they ever want to be in a position where Jake Merklinger leads on the depth chart because I don't think Josh Heupel sees a future with Jake Merklinger. I think if you put Jake Merklinger as the starter as a sophomore, you're all in with him for the next 2 or 3 years. And I think Josh Heupel thinks George McIntyre or maybe Faison Brandon when he comes in next year will surpass him. So Josh Heupel doesn't want to be in a situation where he has to start Jake Merklinger over George McIntyre, because that means he's starting Jake Merklinger over George McIntyre for the next 3 years. So he'd much rather start Joey Aguilar this year and then let George McIntyre, develop for another year, take another step forward. And then next year, George McIntyre wins the job. I think that's the secret game Josh Heupel's playing. And that's why he really, really wanted Joey Aguilar. So I think Josh Heupel's going to I think Joey Aguilar is the favorite to start because Josh Heupel wants him to start right now. Josh Heupel expects him to start, and we know Josh Heupel with Joey Milton's situation. The guy he wants to start in spring ball is the guy who's going to start in the fall, no matter what they do in fall camp.
Well said. Today's tough question: who will start the opening game for Tennessee? That's pretty simple. Here we go.
Today's tough question. Boom. You heard that. Now take it. The Dave Hooker Show with Calhoun. Represented by T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com, Tennessee's trial attorney. From the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln Studio, East Tennessee's #1 volume and customer service dealer, Ted Russell Ford and TedRussellLincoln.net. Now to the Dave Hooker Show on Off the Hook Sports.
All right, let's make it the poll question. Just simple. Who will start for Tennessee at quarterback? Is it Joey Aguilar or anyone else? Caleb, I'm in the minority. I'll take anybody else at this point. And I say that not because, and I've looked at tape of all these guys, and I've seen them in person in some cases. But with Joey Aguilar, I just think there's an incredible challenge coming in at quarterback, trying to be a leader, trying to manage an offense, trying to make all the right throws. With just 2 months before preseason camp, 3 months before the opening. So if you make today's tough question, will it be Joey Aguilar or someone else? I'll take someone else, but I think I'm in the minority.
So the poll question I set up is, should Joey Aguilar be the favorite to start for the Vols? Yes or no? And I'm going to go with Joey Aguilar. I'm going to go with Joey Aguilar. And there's a few things about Joey Aguilar that make me think he will win the starting job. One, Josh Heupel went after him. Josh Heupel showed with Joe Milton, he doesn't care if you missed all of spring ball. If you're his guy, he's going to make you the starter. Two, and this is key, for a quarterback with Joey Aguilar, this system is really, really, really easy to pick up for a quarterback no matter what. It takes not that long. Joey Aguilar is a veteran quarterback. So more important than picking up the system, I think it's more important for him to just establish a rapport with the receivers because they have to be on the same page. And Joey Aguilar has to assume they're going to run a certain route on their option routes based on what the defensive coverages show. So that's what he's got to do. And he's got a summer to do workouts with the receivers to make sure that happens. And then 3, the biggest drawback for Joey Aguilar to a lot of people are his interceptions. But I want to point this out. I think I've said it before. Josh Heupel's offense is designed in such a way that it's really hard to throw interceptions. There's not that. I mean, Dave, aren't like 90% of Josh Heupel passes either quick screens, horizontal passes, or passes over the top down the field?
Well, theoretically, I think that they should have run more patterns over the middle last year, but they didn't have a guy named Hendon Hooker, and I think they were a bit insecure. Anytime you throw over the middle, there's a much greater chance for interception. Speaking of, I want to ask you about that gunslinger mentality. Is that what Tennessee needs if they go in that regard? Because Joey Aguilar is definitely that sort of quarterback. Today's tough question brought to you by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com.
Why Banks & Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks & Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks & Jones. T. Scott.
Caleb, I'm talking to you this morning about Tennessee's quarterback situation and use the term gunslinger with Aguilar. The term gunslinger scares me to death. Why is Tennessee okay with a gunslinger at quarterback in this offense? Thoughts?
A couple of reasons. I think one, like I said, I don't think Josh Heupel's offense has a lot of plays in the playbook that give the quarterback a chance to throw interceptions. There's just not a lot of chances there to throw interceptions given how it's designed. Also, and this is a big one, gunslingers are willing to let their receivers go up and make plays. And according to Will West and according to some other people we've had on our show, Nico Iamaleava was very hesitant to throw to a receiver who was covered last year. Now you got a guy in Chris
Milton was as well.
Yeah, Joe Milton was as well. You got a guy in Chris Brazel who could win one-on-one battles all day. You have another guy in Brew McCoy who lost a step last year. Absolutely. But you could throw the ball to him on some curl routes or underneath routes and let him just make a play with the ball in his hands with his physical gifts. Nico never wanted to do that. I think he would get frustrated that he couldn't hit every big pass over the top. And I don't think Joey Aguilar cares about hitting every big pass over the top. I think he's more than happy to throw a fade and say, "Hey, Chris Brazel, here you go. Try and grab it." And that's why I think it's okay.
You would hope so, but he did throw a lot of interceptions. Does that concern you?
No, not for this offense. Not for Heupel's offense. Heupel's offense, again, makes it borderline impossible to throw that many interceptions because he doesn't scheme a lot of plays. Even if they do add over the middle plays, Dave, you and I both know there's not going to be that many. I mean, Heupel's offense is horizontal and over the top. Those are the only pass plays you really have in this system. So
okay. If Joey Aguilar doesn't work out or a quarterback to be determined doesn't work out, and their middle of the pack SEC rating in quarterback passing, how concerned are you moving forward as a Tennessee fan? Because at some point you should tab your next quarterback. And I know NIL and Nico and all that stuff got messed up, but you should have your guy ready way before May/June, shouldn't you?
You should. And look, there could be a quarterback switch. Heupel is at least willing to make a switch if a quarterback's not working out. He, again, showed that with Milton and Hooker, although, again, Milton had to get hurt for that to happen. But Heupel could make a switch. I'll say with Aguilar, I don't know if there's as much a concern. If Aguilar nor Merklinger's working out in the system, like if he makes the switch and Merklinger's not working out, then there's a big concern about the Heupel offense in general. You know, Dave, I said when you were out, and I wanted your thoughts on this, I think Heupel and Tennessee are overspending on quarterbacks. You know, a lot of the quarterback play is Heupel's system. I would spend more money on weapons and skill players, honestly.
Well, maybe they learned. I mean, I think you're on to something. Maybe they learned the lesson the hard way by Nico moving on. Maybe he wanted $3-4 million a year, and they said, "Nah, I think that's the best idea." But it certainly appears that way. Now, it would be easy for me to rip Josh Heupel and say, "Hey, man, what are you doing here? Why is this guy not blocking that guy or throwing that guy or that?" But this is all brand new with the NIL, Caleb. I mean, I can't really knock anybody. Alabama's begging for money, for goodness sake. I can't knock anybody in a brand new system that involves cash to players.
Yeah, you have to moneyball it to a certain degree. You have to figure out exactly where to spend and what puts you ahead of the curve.
But I mean, I guess the question I'm asking you, if you screw up in the opening years of NIL, now moving forward, I mean, we're in the era. But if you screw up in those first 3 or 4 years, that's not an indictment of you as a coach. You were never trained to manage budgets.
No, but part of this, it is an indictment of you as a talent evaluator, and Josh Heupel's missed on talent evaluations. I'll say it to you. I'll put it to you this way. So here's what we found out. According to reports in On3, Nico Iamaleava was going to make about $2.4 million for Tennessee this year. Joey Aguilar, Tennessee got him for $1.2 million. Now, here's the question: and a lot of Tennessee fans don't want to hear this, but this is the truth. Nico Iamaleava this year would have been better than Joey Aguilar would be for Tennessee this year. Can we agree on that?
Agreed. The question is how much better, right?
How much better? I don't think $1.2 million better in an NIL budget. I think saving $1.2 million, getting Joey Aguilar for $1.2 million is much more valuable than Nico Iamaleava at $2.4 million. Much, much more valuable. Land.
I don't know that I can go there. I think if Nico's good and happy, I think Tennessee's a better program. Would you argue that?
No, I wouldn't argue that, but I do think it's a problem if they look. I do think it's a problem if he's stretching their NIL budget. They need talent elsewhere. They've needed talent elsewhere for a while. And last year, what was Nico's biggest problem? The biggest issue with Tennessee last year was they didn't have a receiver who could dictate coverage because Brew McCoy, as we found out, had never recovered from that broken leg. All of our suspicions were confirmed when he medically retired from football because he didn't get drafted. So that was Nico's biggest, and he had 2 tackles that were hurt at the beginning of the year. A lot of that wasn't his fault. So I would say that part of the reason he was having those issues, though, is Tennessee was spending too much money on him. I mean, it's the whole NFL saga. You know, Aaron Rodgers fans complained for years that he didn't have enough help in Green Bay. Well, they were giving him all the money. How could they afford to give him help? Honestly.
Good gracious. Shouldn't we ultimately know the budget? I mean, this is a public institution. I want to move on the topic, but how in the world is there not a statement released every summer, late June, early July, just like the budget, in which we know who's making what? Shouldn't we know that?
Well, because this isn't coming from Tennessee's budget. This is coming from it. I mean, again, when we talk about budget, we're not talking about an official budget. Remember this. We're talking about how much money boosters are willing to spend on players in endorsements. That's not public, technically. Tennessee's just helping facilitate those endorsements.
Okay. We could quibble on that. Still, those are publicly traded companies for the most part. I mean, I would want to know where my money is going. Portions of the program brought to you by Sports Treasures, carrying over 5 million sports treasures and so much more. Follow on Facebook for the best sports memorabilia, daily updates. The link is right down below. And Caleb and I were discussing the show at our 3:45 a.m. production meeting, and this popped up, and it surprised me, to be honest with you. Tennessee number 10 in the FPI by ESPN. Now, for those that don't know, you want to describe what the FPI is, because it's a lot of numbers and mumble and jumble, and I'd rather look at football and determine who I think is better, but it's become a thing.
Yes. So the ratings include a forecast for every team's record. It's a power rating that tracks every team's strengths relative to an average FBS squad. So they rate the offense, defense, and special teams with the values representing points per game. It takes into account pretty much everything as far as basically it ranks you based on how your unit would compare to other units in college football based on points per game last year and returning talent. That's the real specific focus on the FPI. And with that in mind, it's very analytical. Again, I can't go to the exact formula. It's the same with like total QBR. I have a lot of trouble with total QBR. That's always been a weakness of mine, but those are the big things they look at. And then they go, and from there, they give you projected wins based on your schedule, based on how many games you have at home, how many games you have on the road, and things like that. So, but the biggest thing is they take it's a points value system. So based on the points you score per game versus the points you give up per game versus special team scoring, how the units stack up against each other, and how much talent you have in each unit. So it's all about, they don't look at yards or things like that. They look at scoring offense, scoring defense from last year.
Okay, so let's dive into that, because Tennessee is rated a little bit higher than I thought they would be. Hit that like and subscribe button. We greatly appreciate that. With Caleb Calhoun, I'm Dave Hooker. Hot or Cold, brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning, cityheatandair.com.
Where do you stand? Hot or cold? Brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning. Integrity matters. 50 years in East Tennessee. cityheatandair.com. On Off the Hook Sports.
Hey, so Tennessee comes in at number 10 in the FPI. Before you and I had our 3:45 a.m. production meeting, which, by the way, the FPI wasn't out then, so 10th. That I just where would you have put Tennessee before you heard they were number 10 in the nation in terms of winning the national championship?
I would have thought they would have been 15 to 20.
Me too.
But I will say this, because the FPI puts value on points and expected points scored and added. There's a flaw in the system that Tennessee exploits more than other schools, which is that, Dave, you and I both know there's a gigantic gap between Tennessee scoring when they face group of 5 bad programs and SEC programs. The gap for them is bigger than it is for most schools.
I would have thought 15 to 20 as well. Hit that like and subscribe button. We greatly appreciate that. As we've got coming up, Rick Terry's Great 8 Challenge. We'll give away a Garmin watch when we hit 8,000 subscribers. You can be eligible. Caleb, 10's about as high as I could possibly go. I want to break down some of the teams that are behind and above Tennessee in terms of those ratings, but I think it's very favorable. I don't know that Josh Heupel's really hypey about it, because it just puts more pressure on him. But is Tennessee heading into this season the 10th best, which is essentially what the FPI is saying? Are they the 10th best team in the nation?
I wouldn't say they're the 10th best team in the nation, but their national title odds are 11th best, believe it or not, while their FPI has them 10th best. And just so people know, we're going to get to them, but the reason is Clemson's national title odds are much higher than the FPI ranking, because guess what conference Clemson plays in? So that's part of it. I think this is, again, I can't go 10th best. I saw Tennessee's production in SEC play last year, and it was very middle of the pack. This is based on how they inflate and skew their scoring when they play bad group of 5 teams or Division II schools. Because while Tennessee's middle of the pack in the SEC, some of those schools ahead of Tennessee might beat a Division II school 52-0. Tennessee's going to beat them 69-0. They're going to play Kent State and win 71-0. Who is the worst? Last year's Kent State team was the worst team in the history of college football. So that's how that works. And with that in mind, I think Tennessee, I still say predictive value, they should be in the 15 to 20 range if you adjust for how they skew their stats. Now, caveat, that doesn't mean that the predictive value, it's impossible to give them predictive value this year with a new quarterback and a completely new crop of receivers who I think are going to be significantly better than last year's crop of receivers.
Agreed and agreed. I'm not an analytics guy. I do find this interesting in terms of returning starters and returning players that are going to be a part of the Vols. However, I just have trouble putting them at number 10. Go ahead and get on board. Now, what's our poll question, or do we want to update that in terms of the FPI? It is, again, Hot or Cold, brought to you by City Heat and Air Conditioning, cityheatandair.com.
Cooper Mays here. Hit like and subscribe.
All right, definitely do that. All right, appreciate you, Coop. All right, let's break down some teams that are above Tennessee and then below Tennessee, and I will ask you if they're well placed.
That's hot.
Or not. All right, so
and just so people know, we're going by national title odds now based on the FPI, because Tennessee's title odds are 11th, and so I'm going to say whether or not I'm hot or cold on them having a realistic chance of winning the national title this year.
Okay, so what's the difference between the odds from Vegas and the FPI? I want to make sure.
FPI takes the predictive value.
No, but in your mind, I mean, I know the difference, but just in your mind, how do you differentiate?
Oh, I don't really differentiate. I have no idea on the differences between the odds. I'm not that much of a mathematician, Dave.
That's hot.
All right, let's go ahead and dive into it. Number 1 would be Texas. Should they be above Tennessee in the FPI as they are? Where does Texas rank? And I have trouble arguing that Texas shouldn't be above Tennessee in the FPI ranking. Do you?
Yeah, no, I'm high on I'm hot on Texas, and also I'm
That's
hot,
hot.
and also I'm hot on Texas having a realistic shot at winning a national title.
Agreed. All right, Georgia. I get this weird feeling that Georgia is going to have this little renaissance run in which they'll play for a couple of national championships and probably win one. I'm not saying like a Saban second run with Kiffin, but I just get this weird feeling that Georgia's not done. You?
I'm hot on Georgia. I'll answer that, but I'll first say I'm hot on Georgia being ahead of Tennessee, and I'm hot on them having a chance, having an obvious realistic chance to win a national title. My hesitance on them having a renaissance run, Dave, is as long as Mike Dodo is their offensive coordinator, and yes, I called him Mike Dodo instead of Mike Bobo.
Ever?
I'm sorry.
Ever?
Yeah. Bobo the Dodo. I don't see how they're going to win one because Mike Bobo is, you know who Mike Bobo is? The way he coaches is very much like Bill Belichick in Super Bowls, where if you guys don't remember when Bill Belichick had like explosive offenses, he would still he would play so conservatively in the first half that it's why the Patriots always had to have game-winning drives in the Super Bowl before he opened things up. So I am high on Mike Bobo. I mean, I'm high on Georgia, but I'm low on Mike Bobo.
All right.
That's hot.
I'm really high on Georgia. I think they're going to win another national title in the next 5 years, and I think they'll play for 2 more. Now, what about Ohio State? It felt like rally the troops sort of season for Ohio State that ended in them hammering Tennessee. It just felt like that to me, Caleb. I don't know that you can replicate that year to year to year, but they're spending a ton of money as well.
Yes, and also it's Ohio State. Ohio State is a job on the caliber of LSU. And what do I say by Ohio State being the job on the caliber of LSU? It is the only Power 5 program, until recently with Cincinnati, but they don't count. It's the only true Power 5 program in a state loaded with talent. So you can go to Ohio State, you can party it up as a coach all week and not do any work, and you'll wake up and have a top 5 recruiting class. And the same with LSU. Honestly,
there are times that I think that Caleb oversimplifies things. This is not one of those times. I'm going to agree with him. I do think you can wake up out of bed and I don't say top 10 class. I won't go top 5. But
enough.
you can be hungover and get a top 10 class. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's totally fair. I mean, you'll get a call from a 5-star. I want to come in. It's like, oh, I didn't recruit you, but sure, I'll take you at Ohio State.
All right. Hot or Cold brought to you by City Heat and Air Conditioning, cityheatandair.com. Who else is rated above Tennessee and who else is rated below Tennessee that maybe shouldn't be? With Caleb Calhoun, I'm Dave Hooker, Off Those Sports.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard Heating and Air Conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Okay, Caleb. I think the most interesting program on this list, the FBI just rated Tennessee as number 10. I think by far the most interesting team is Alabama. The most interesting program is Alabama. Why do I say that? Because you have Greg Byrne, the athletic director for the University of Alabama, essentially begging for money. And if you hadn't heard that, he comes out and he says, college football is different now. We're not comparing how we used to be, blah, blah, blah. Essentially saying, stroke me a check, right?
Correct.
Okay. I could see them going one of 2 ways. Like they found their coach or they haven't, and they go incredibly south. Caleb, I think they're the most intriguing program. If somebody told me you can cover any program as a in-depth reporter, off this list, it's probably Alabama.
They are intriguing, and I'm going to tell you right now, and this is not good news for Tennessee, and this is why I think their title lot should actually even be lower. I think they're really going to hit their stride this year and be very, very elite. And let me break down why. Alabama last year was in a situation that Josh Heupel was in 2 years ago with Joe Milton. And here's what I mean by that. Dave, you and I both know Kalen DeBoer did not want Jalen Milroe as his quarterback. That is not a fit for him. Jalen Milroe was a terrible fit for that offense. Tennessee exposed it when they beat them, and then Oklahoma used that exact same 3-3-5 shell defense where you just bring pressure from the edge, and Jalen Milroe was garbage. But the team loved Jalen Milroe. So what do you do if you're Kalen DeBoer and you're a new head coach taking over a program and you're trying to keep your team together and you bench, Nick Saban could have benched Jalen Milroe. Kalen DeBoer can't. So he said, let me ride it out with Jalen Milroe for a year. He'll leave, and then I'll have my guy. Alabama now has their offensive coordinator in place, Ryan Grubb, who was there when Kalen DeBoer took Washington to the national title game a couple of years ago. He went to the Seahawks for a year, and now he's back at Alabama. They have a collection of their quarterbacks. I think Ty Simpson will be their guy. I think Alabama is going to absolutely take off this year, and they're going to do. I mean, Kalen DeBoer's offense is going to do what he was doing with Washington. So I think, and the fact that they have another elite recruiting class, Tennessee goes to Alabama. I am hot on Alabama. Dave, I might be hotter on Alabama than Georgia or Texas this year.
And I love what Travis had to say. They lost to bleeping Vanderbilt. That is true.
Nick Saban lost to Louisiana Monroe.
Yeah, but that's rebuilding a program. I don't think that's fair.
Well, yeah, but Kalen DeBoer was installing a new system with the quarterback that wasn't a fit for that system. A complete non-fit for the system. I mean, yes, they lost to Vanderbilt. They also beat Georgia.
Okay, scale of 1 to 10. Give me Vanderbilt and Alabama's talent level last year.
Okay, Alabama was a 9 and Vanderbilt was a 4. But
that's hot.
But prove my point.
You have to qualify fit for the systems too. Alabama was a 9, but Kalen DeBoer was trying to fit a square peg in a round hole, and he had no choice but to do that. So that has to count.
Okay, so who else ahead of Tennessee should be ahead of Tennessee? I'm going to throw a couple of names at you. Penn State, Oregon, Clemson, Notre Dame, Miami, Texas A&M. Your thoughts? I have mine.
Penn State, I am cold on.
Agreed.
Oregon, I'm hot on. I think Dan Lanning's doing an incredible job out there. Let's see where.
So if Tennessee and Oregon meet, let's just throw something random out there. The Cotton Bowl in the opening round of the college football playoff.
Second round. The Bowls are the second round.
It's home whatever. Whatever. They meet middle of the nation. I don't care. In Milwaukee. It doesn't matter. Tennessee loses to Oregon, given that this is Josh Heupel's fourth year. Excuse me.
No, fifth. You're right.
Fifth. Man, I don't think that's a good sign.
Yeah, but Oregon's a step ahead of Tennessee right now because they got a head start. Well, because they never had a decade of dysfunction and 75 scholarship players all leave at once. So that's why. So, and also they're just in a better situation with the top heavy Big Ten schedule. So, I mean, but Tennessee can still beat them. But I think right now Oregon is in a little bit better shape. I mean, just the Nico thing alone.
I'm not arguing that. My argument is, if you're a Tennessee fan, should you be concerned if in year 5 Tennessee were to lose to Oregon, which is also, I mean, not rebuilt, but has also been building up a program.
Yeah, no, I don't think you should be worried. I think Oregon is right there with all these other schools we're talking about. They're in that tier with Tennessee. I don't think that's a problem. I mean, nobody's in Georgia, Ohio State, or Alabama's tier talent-wise right now. So that's it. And maybe Texas, I guess.
I'll tell you what, neutral site, if Tennessee were to lose to Oregon.
I think you're stuck in 2007. I think you're stuck in 2007 and how you view the programs. Okay, it's just a totally different time. Now, you mentioned Clemson. I think the FPI is right. They're right to have Clemson below Tennessee, but they're right to give Clemson better national title odds than Tennessee because of where Clemson plays. So, splitting the baby on that one. Because guess what? Clemson is playing in the ACC. And they'll sleep their way to the playoff with that schedule. Notre Dame, I mean, they just played for the national title. I say they're right to be ahead of Tennessee in overall FPI ranking and talent odds. However, Miami, I think that's no. Miami's got Carson Beck. Mario Cristobal is not going to know what to do with Carson Beck. That's the other one you mentioned. Mario Cristobal is not going to know what to do with Carson Beck at all. And then
I still want to go on record with this. Shedeur Sanders was the best quarterback in this past draft.
Oh yeah, I agree. I totally agree with you on that.
Well, everybody else disagrees, but okay.
And then lastly, obviously, is ahead of Tennessee. We'll get to some behind them in a second, but Texas A&M ahead of Tennessee. I actually don't mind that one because I think Mike Elko, Texas A&M has a lot of talent, and I am such a believer in Mike Elko.
Yeah, I'm an Elko fan as well. I think that's scary for Tennessee moving forward. This day in Tennessee sports history is brought to you by our good friends.
Wait, can I name a couple teams below them real quick?
Go ahead.
Now you give me hot or cold if they should be ahead of Tennessee and they're below them. LSU.
No, I would take Tennessee based off its coaching.
Okay.
Because I don't believe in the coaching staff at LSU currently with Brian Kelly.
All right, Ole Miss.
Tennessee should definitely be ahead. If they're not ahead in year 5, Caleb, that's a problem.
Michigan.
I really like from people I talk to what Michigan is doing NIL-wise. And I've said this for a while, and I said it, I think I was one of the first to say on our program that I thought Michigan was the best football team, not last year, but the year before in 2023. But Caleb, I think in terms of talent level, you should be better in the SEC than at Michigan.
I mean, I agree to a certain degree, but I think Michigan has better in-state talent than Tennessee does. As of right now, I do. You can.
That's hot.
Now 2 more, and this might trigger you, but South Carolina. Now Tennessee has better talent than South Carolina, but South Carolina has the best quarterback in the SEC in Lenore Sellers.
They've got a bottom half of the coaches in the SEC.
Yeah, but a quarterback can do a lot for you, Cam Newton, to Gene Chizik. And then lastly, Florida detail-oriented Billy Napier. They look like they might take a step forward this year, Dave.
I think they're taking a major step back.
Okay. All righty.
You?
I think Tennessee is going to lose to Florida in the Swamp this year. I'm sorry. I do.
Gravy. Don't be sorry. This day in Tennessee sports history is brought to you by our friends at Hound Dogs of Knoxville. Champions look good in orange. By the way, that baseball team's pretty good, and they have an incredible selection there on Kingston Pike of baseball memorabilia and apparel that you can look absolutely fantastic. I think, just real quick, I think Arkansas is in for a mess this weekend as Tennessee advances to the Super Regional.
Oh, I think Arkansas is going to win the series. You think Arkansas is in trouble? I got Arkansas winning that series.
Well, I won't say that I'm not predicting. I just think that that's not that you don't want Tennessee coming to your place. That sounds like an opportunity to get upset to me.
Okay, I get what you're saying, but I got Arkansas winning that series. And I mean, also the Tony Vitello, since he coached at Arkansas, there's a lot of interesting storylines there. Or since he played at Arkansas, excuse me. So.
True. All right, let's get to it. This day in Tennessee sports history brought to you by Hound Dogs of Knoxville.
This day in Tennessee sports history.
It's cool, baby. It's cool.
Now you know, and knowing is half the battle. The Dave Hooker Show with Caleb Calhoun. Off the Hook Sports.
What do we got, Caleb, this day in Tennessee sports history?
All right, so on this day, 33 years ago, a beloved Vol for life, Juwan James, was born. It's a happy birthday to Juwan James. He's 33 years old. James started for the Vols from 2010 to 2013, was all SEC in 2013, and then was drafted by the Dolphins, was an all-rookie team player in 2014, started for them for 5 years from 2014 to 2018, played for the Broncos 2019, 2020, played for the Ravens 2021, 2022. Unfortunately, his career ended a little abruptly because he tore his Achilles in back-to-back years and then retired. But he was a very, very good starter in the NFL for a while. Is married to a UT softball player, Rainey Griffin, who was there from 2013 to 2016. So happy birthday to Juwan James, one of the better linemen for Tennessee, and was part of that historically great offense in 2012 that Derek Dooley, of all people, put together, but that just had a terrible defense.
Are we going to make this a WAG site, wives and girlfriends? Is that where you're going here with Juwan James and who he's dating?
No, I just meant no. I mean, but we could do what was it? The Butch Jones all women's football clinic.
Yeah. Lane Kiffin, as we mentioned yesterday, had his own version. What does the comment say, Caleb? I usually read the comments, but I thought you might want to share this one.
Oh, it says you suck, Caleb. Well, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I spit facts. I'm sorry if facts don't care about your feelings, guys.
All right. The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. We're going to visit with T. Scott Jones tomorrow to get the latest on his thoughts of the Kai Ziegler lawsuit. Should he get another a year of eligibility? I kind of think not, to be real honest with you, for the sanctity of college athletics. But we'll visit with T. Scott Jones tomorrow about that. Coming up on the program, we will talk some college football Hall of Fame, but also, more importantly, Caleb, we will also dive into Tennessee and Derek Dooley, who likes to turn down great quarterbacks in recruiting. The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com, live from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln Studios. Hang with me for 2 minutes. We'll be back with you with Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker. Again, the show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com.
It's a new year, a new day, and Ted Russell Lincoln has an exciting new offer to share. Right now, get a 2024 Lincoln Navigator with 0% APR for 72 months and up to $4,000 in bonus cash. Or drive away in a new 2024 Lincoln Corsair Grand Touring with 0% APR for 60 months and up to $4,500 in bonus cash. It's time to get excited about the ride. Come and see what a luxury car experience truly is at Ted Russell Lincoln Knoxville.
Now in its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Newbert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Newbert Collision Center.
Having been in the jewelry industry for a long time in the Knoxville community, I saw a need for a jeweler, a real jeweler.
Our ability to do these designs has really been based on the customers bringing new things in and challenging us as a store. Our goal is not to tell anybody what they want. Our goal is to listen to what they want and then help them get there.
Schedule your consultation today to get your special someone the perfect custom gift just in time for the holidays.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Dare to compare.
Double D Piping provides full-service fire protection on any scale. From residential homes to government facilities, we can assist any customer through design, fabrication, installation, inspection, and demonstration of fire suppression systems. With 30 years of service across 5 states and a full staff with over 40 years experience, our quality can't be beat. Don't get caught watching what you could have prevented. Call Double D Piping.
Ginger Power, the Dave Hooker Show with Caleb Calhoun. Represented by T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com, Tennessee's trial attorney. From the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln Studio, East Tennessee's #1 volume and customer service dealer, Ted Russell Ford and TedRussellLincoln.net. Now to the Dave Hooker Show on Off the Hook Sports.
Comment on the message board. We encourage you to do that frequently. We greatly appreciate it. Hit the like and subscribe button. Caleb, your thoughts on the latest comment on the message board, the fact that Tennessee is equally as talented and the reigning champs with the best pitcher in college baseball. I agree with that, but I don't think it's like football where if you're the most talented team and you have the most talented quarterback, in this case, pitcher or pitching staff, you should expect to win a national championship. I just don't think the College World Series is set up like that. It's too random.
Yeah, and baseball and one series in baseball is totally luck. The Braves had the best pitcher in baseball for an entire decade in the 90s in Greg Maddux, and they got one World Series title out of it. And so, and by the way, then they had 2 other Hall of Fame pitchers behind Greg Maddux and Tom Glavine and John Smoltz. Okay, so I'm sorry. That's not a thing. Baseball is a total crapshoot. There's a mentality thing, I think, with playing baseball more than anything, Dave. And I think that this Tennessee team Maybe I'm wrong. I could be wrong. Maybe they feel no pressure because they're young and they'll play loose and have fun and that'll help them. But I don't think they're as mature as last year's team. And I think a lot of this is your mentality and how you are going into a series. And I think with that in mind, I think Tennessee's going to lose this series to Arkansas.
Good gravy. You're just all down on Tennessee. If you want to rip Caleb Calhoun, go ahead and do so on the message.
Go ahead, rip me. This is not a knock on the program, by the way. Tony Vitello is the best coach in baseball. Also, but Dave, are we witnessing? I mean, no, we're not, because Arkansas's happy with their baseball coach. But I'm just saying, could we be witnessing a Doug Dickey 1969 scenario? Tony Vitello loses to Arkansas and then goes and takes the job at Arkansas.
No, surely not. Portions of the program brought to you by Newbrook Collision Center. For nearly 50 years, Newbrook Collision Center has been East Tennessee's best choice for quality repair work and fantastic customer service. Just Google them at Newbrook Collision. Again, Newbrook Collision. And you can check them out at joenewbrookcollision.com. All right, so let's go ahead and move to four downs. Brought to you by Ted Russell Ford. Again, at Parkside Drive. I've said this before. And Kingston Pike. They are fantastic. And there are no tariffs on any of their cars right now. You can go and do all your shopping. East Tennessee's largest volume dealer. Coop, what should we do?
Cooper Mays here. Hit like and subscribe.
Thank you, Coop. I appreciate that.
Coop here. First down.
All right. College Football Hall of Fame. Four downs brought to you by Ted Russell Ford. Should they be in? Let's go first down. Josh Heupel, because these gentlemen that we're going to talk about were selected to be on the ballot in terms of getting in the College Football Hall of Fame.
As players.
And that's key because that's different than a lot of other leagues do it. No offense, Josh. You don't feel like a Hall of Famer to me. And we discussed yesterday how you should determine a Hall of Famer. And I think it's largely just when it strikes you in the face. Are you a Hall of Famer? And he doesn't feel like that to me.
Yeah, I disagree. I'm sorry. He's a Hall of Famer to me. Josh Heupel was a 2-year starter just like T. Martin and won a national championship just like T. Martin. But his accolades as a quarterback are much, much better individually than T. Martin. So
would you argue that Oklahoma's offense was ahead of the curve at the time, whereas Tennessee's offense under David Cutcliffe and T. Martin was much more pro-style based and really pretty conservative, especially with T in 98?
Yeah, but can you really hold that? I mean, again, like we've never used that standard before with Hall of Fame votes. We've never said they played in a friendly system. So, that's why they're a Hall of Famer. I mean, nobody sits there and says, well, Joe Montana, was lucky to get drafted by a team that ran the West Coast offense, which fit him perfectly, and he wouldn't have been in the Hall of Fame otherwise. No, we say, well, guess what? He ran the West Coast offense perfectly, and he belongs in the Hall of Fame. So I'm Josh Heupel threw for 50 touchdowns in 2 years, 29 interceptions, which seems like a lot, but interceptions were much more common back then. And in his second year, he was the Walter Camp Player of the Year, the AP College Football Player of the Year, won the Archie Griffin Award, was the Quarterback of the Year, a consensus All-American, was the Big 12 Offensive Player of the Year, was the Big 12 Newcomer of the Year in 99, first team All-Big 12 in 2000, second team All-Big 12 in 99, was, again, All-American. Everybody thought he should have won the Heisman over Chris Winkie, didn't win the Heisman against Chris Winkie, but then went and beat Chris Winkie in the national title 13-2. So I think Josh Heupel literally did everything you could ask for to be a College Football Hall of Famer over those 2 years. If T. Martin was in a different system, maybe we'd be talking about him. If T. Martin went to play for Nebraska during that time, Dave, he'd be College Football Hall of Famer. He'd have been amazing running that triple option in Tom Osborne's system. But
yeah, I think you brought this up before, and I don't want to get belabored by it, but I think you like T's hips a little more than me. I don't think he was a fluid runner. I think he was a straight ahead runner, but
I mean, that might be true too.
Yeah.
But the point is, yes, he was in the right system, but like, should I say Danny Warhol's not a Hall of Famer because he just lucked out to play in the Fun and Gun during that time? Or do I say, well, he put up video game numbers in it, so I mean, he belongs in the College Football Hall of Fame.
Is he in the Hall of Fame?
I'm sure he is. He won a Heisman and a national championship and was a 4-year starter. I'm almost shocked if he's not in the College Football Hall of Fame.
Okay, but it's strictly
yes,
as a
and he's
player.
in it.
Okay,
He's in it as a player.
Strictly as a player, it's funny you bring him up because he doesn't feel like a Hall of Famer to me.
You are judging talented. Yes, you are evaluating as if you're an NFL scout. My older brother does this a lot too, funny enough, and I get it. You guys are right. You evaluate as an NFL scout, that's fine. But that's not what the College Football Hall of Fame is about. Your production at the college level, regardless of what you benefited from. Okay, and so, Tim Tebow benefited from Urban Meyer's system. Are we going to say Tim Tebow's not a Hall of Famer for college football?
Fair. All right. Portions of the program, again, brought to you by our friends at City Heat and Air Conditioning, cityheatandair.com. Caleb, let's get second down.
Coop here. First down.
All right.
That was first down.
Second down.
Coop, what are you doing? Larry Sievers. For some reason, Caleb, in my age group and slightly above, he is like a fan favorite. And I'm not sure exactly why. Does he feel like a Hall of Famer? And he really doesn't. But he was the first Tennessee receiver to go over 800 yards in a season. And nowadays that doesn't seem like a lot with the way they throw the ball around. But the following year, he caught 51 passes for 737 yards and was named All-American. Is he a Hall of Famer?
I don't even have to think about it. He's a Hall of Famer because here's a rule I have of making you a Hall of Famer. You want to know one of my rules?
I want to know your rules.
If you're a two-time All-American, you're automatically in the Hall of Fame. I don't even have to think about it. He was an All-American in 75 and in 76. He's a Hall of Famer. And he started the wide receiver U tradition. For those who don't know, with Tennessee actually became a thing during the early 80s under Johnny Majors when he retooled the offense and went away from the veer and more towards a vertical passing attack. That's where you got the Willie Gaults and guys like that. But the first true star receiver for Tennessee was Larry Sievers in 75 and 76. And Dave, he did it for a really bad football program with no good quarterback play because Condrich Holloway had already left. And so I'm very high on Larry Sievers. Funny enough, during that time, Stanley Morgan, who became a Pro Bowler receiver, maybe the most successful Tennessee receiver in the NFL of all time, was also on Tennessee. But the ironic thing was he wasn't playing receiver. He was playing running back at the time. So, yes.
So Dylan had what to say on the message board?
Caleb likes hips. You heard it here first. Hips don't lie. Hips don't lie.
No, they don't. And if you can read a guy's hips, you can do a lot.
Also, evolutionary history shows that the number one thing that determines if you're attracted to a woman, it's not the face. It's actually subconsciously, you don't know it. It's hip to waist ratio because hip to waist ratio determines fertility.
That's hot.
Agreed. All right. Where are we, Coop?
Tennessee center Cooper Mays here. Third down.
All right. These are players that are on the college football Hall of Fame ballot. Deion Grant. So I'm talking to somebody at Tennessee. This is about 4 months ago. And I knew this was coming because the person told me, he said, we got Al Wilson, the College Football Hall of Fame. The next guy's Deion. So there has been a major PR push to get Deion in the College Football Hall of Fame. But I don't care. He deserves to be in it, and it's not close. 4 Downs brought to you by Ted Russell Ford, Lincoln on Parkside, and of course on Kingston Pike, East Tennessee's largest volume dealer. I don't think it's close, and you shouldn't judge this, but when he went to the NFL with the Carolina Panthers in like the 7th practice, he suffered the same injury that Bo Jackson suffered. Do you know that? The hip injury?
I did not know that.
Okay. So he would have had a fantastic NFL career, and it shouldn't be a factor, Caleb, but it is because you remember what type of player he was. Deion Grant should absolutely be in the Hall of Fame. I don't think it's close. I would take him over Heupel, Sievers, and the next mention we're gonna get to in 4 Downs, brought to you by Ted Russell Ford, Lincoln on Parkside Drive in Kingston Pike. I don't think it's close, Caleb.
Yeah, I think he's an automatic Hall of Famer. Deion Grant had 9 interceptions in a season, which is insane. And, he did it, by the way, as you talk about, so much was expected of Tennessee safeties during that time because John Chavis called that zone, they lived off the zone blitzes where the cornerbacks weren't really the factor that they should have been. in that system. So the safeties really had to help over the top.
Well, and it allowed Fred White, who would tell you this, it allowed him to play in the box. Tennessee was essentially running about a 4-4.
Let me ask you.
I just real quick. It's one of those players at a position that you really have to watch the entire game to get a feel for, because offenses were afraid of Deion Grant.
Oh, I agree. You're right. And it was they didn't know him as well in 98, but he was a factor. And then in 99, they were afraid of him, and he still had 9 interceptions. I mean, could you imagine if he had stayed till his senior year in 2000? And the crazy part is Deion Grant leaves, and you realize he was single-handedly carrying that secondary, because he leaves, and that secondary, that 2000 Tennessee secondary, that was the worst part of their rebuilding year that year, when I don't think they had an interception the first 6 games of the year. Now, the interesting thing with Deion Grant, Dave, and I want to know your thoughts. So Al Wilson's in, should have been in. Deion Grant's in. There's 2 other All-Americans who started on the 98 team who aren't in yet, and I want to know if you think either of them belong, and that would be Raynoch Thompson and Kosi Coleman. Should either of them be in the Hall of Fame, or is it just not the same as Deion Grant as an All-American?
No offense to both those guys, which I like a lot, but Deion was another level.
I agree. Deion was another level. I don't even have to think about it with Deion Grant. I mean, if I'm doing an all-time Tennessee starting football team, Deion Grant's my starting free safety. I mean, it's Deion Grant and Eric Berry, right? Like, are your safeties.
Well, don't short Fred any change. He's a friend of the program. Don't do that. Are you taking Eric Berry over Fred? Just don't ask.
Fred, I love you. I love you, Fred. But come on. I mean, Eric Berry's one of the greatest safeties of all time.
Four Down is brought to you by Ted Russell Ford Lincoln on Parkside Drive and Kingston Pike. We'll get to that last guy with a Tennessee tie that is on the College Football Hall of Fame ballot. But real quick, I would just say this. There is no question in my mind that Deion Grant should be in. The other 2, Larry Sievers and Josh Heupel, are very questionable. And if I was
Dave just hates white people, guys. He just doesn't want the white guys in the Hall of Fame. Dave, you're a racist, okay?
Big anti-Caucasian.
You hate white football players. I'm seeing it. I see it firsthand now, okay?
There we go. All right. That 4th down coming up, brought to you by our friends at Ted Russell Ford Lincoln, Kingston Pike as well. Parkside Drive, East Tennessee's largest volume dealer.
Like a blast from the past, the Super Dealer is back. Look to the skies, Knoxville. The Super Dealer is fighting for price, service, and the American made. Ted Russell Ford is East Tennessee's #1 volume Ford dealer. Save up to $4,350 on a new Ford F-150 XLT, or get into a new Ford Ranger XLT with no payments for 90 days. Come see the Super Dealer today at either Ted Russell Ford.
All SEC center Cooper Mays here. 4th down.
All right. Ken Sparks, in or out? College Football Hall of Fame. He's on the ballot.
Ken Sparks. And for those who don't know about Ken Sparks, I want to bring it up just for those who may not be familiar and why he's on here. Ken Sparks was a longtime high school football coach in the Knoxville area, produced a lot of players who went to Tennessee. Most notable was Bill Bates. He coached Bill Bates at Farragut in the late 70s. Speaking of safeties, speaking of white players. And then he went to Carson Newman, won 5 NAIA titles in the 80s at Carson Newman. Really built that program up. I don't even have to think about this. It's a lower division Hall of Fame that they do for Division II. I don't have to think about it with Ken Sparks. He's in 5 titles in a decade. That he's in. And a big congratulations to rest in peace. I think he's passed away, but he
has Ken Sparks passed away?
I do believe Ken Sparks has passed
Lord,
away.
Did you just kill Ken Sparks? I don't think he is.
Let's see. Let me just double check on this, but I believe
you're right.
Yeah, he was. And but Ken Sparks was. I assume you were familiar with him, Dave, because you were going to high school in Knoxville in the 70s. So, or no, in the 80s. Excuse me, 80s. I'm sorry, but I assume you were familiar with him.
The 90s, dude. How old do you think I am?
Well, you had to start in the late 80s, didn't you? You were born in 74.
Yeah, so I started in 88, 89.
Yeah, okay, you're right. I'm bad with math.
Late 80s.
But I assume you're familiar with Ken Sparks, having been born
very
in the
much so.
area.
I went up there and covered a couple of their practices, especially when James Banks was a participant on their football team. And when I say participant, that's the word I chose. I didn't say star. I didn't say contributor. And I still remember going to they set up the interview for me to do the James Banks follow-up after Tennessee in the press box of the stadium. And I remember Ken Sparks and James Banks being in the same room, and it felt like they hated each other.
Oh my gosh. So Ken Sparks thought he got like a rare talent he couldn't pass up because Fulmer kicked him off, and he's like, oh my gosh, this guy's horrible.
Exactly right.
But Ken Sparks coached Bill Bates. We just talked about Larry Severs. Dave, we got to do it. Let's see if we could build an all-white Tennessee football team that could win a championship.
Yeah.
And since his last name is White, we'll start Fred at safety. And he'll just be the one black guy on the team, but he counts because his last name is White.
Yeah. And then we can call up Craig Faulkner. Do you remember him?
Oh, yep. Craig Faulkner and Larry Severs. There we go. That's your two go-to guys. Will Brooks, man. Will Brooks, Bill Bates, Fred White in the secondary. I'm kidding, obviously, Fred. But yeah. It's could you win a title with an all-white Tennessee football starting rotation?
I will tell you this. Quick side note. Somebody came to me before the 98 season, and I thought this was like, and this is somebody that I kind of respect in the media biz, and said, you just can't win without more white players. You have to have a mix. I mean, obviously that didn't prove to be the case. They won the national championship, win 13-0, but somebody said this to me, and if I told you who it was, you would be stunned.
That is crazy.
You have to have a mix. I remember that quote just like it was August of 1998.
Well, I mean, let's talk about the code that was coming from. T. Martin, up until T. Martin's the first black starting SEC quarterback to win a national title. No SEC team with the black starting quarterback had won a national title before him.
Yeah, so but let's be real honest with you. That's also coming from a racist perspective in which you say that white players work harder, are smarter, and all that. Stereotypes that you shouldn't use.
Well, and also, T. Martin, not many of them got the chance to start at quarterback in the SEC up until that point. So you're right.
It's called stacking, and it started when they were like 8 years old.
Okay.
8 years old.
All right, Adam brings up a point. He says, didn't we win most of our titles with all white rosters? Yes, but you can't count the 30s and the 40s when all your opponents had all white rosters too.
I mean, I covered the 98 team. I don't think they were all white and whatsoever. You?
No, I think that's one. Honestly, that might be like the least white team to win a national title.
Which I'm perfectly fine with.
Yeah.
Everybody's human. Stat of the day coming up, Derek Dooley. Another recruiting miss. We always like poking fun at Derek Dooley because he was a goofball and still is. The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com, as we broadcast live from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln Studios. Give me 2 minutes, and I'll tell you who Derek Dooley passed up on other than Von Bell.
Why Banks & Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks & Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks & Jones. T. Scott Jones. banksandjones.com.
Now in its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Newbert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we're still trying to live up to that.
Joe Newbert Collision Center.
Community banking is about location and much more. It's about family. We reside in your community. We are a part of your community. At Commercial Bank, our commitment extends beyond the walls of our branches. It's displayed each day in the opportunities we provide, the money we give back, and the time we commit, all to help improve the lives of the people, families, and businesses that make our communities great. Commercial Bank, life made better.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Dare to compare.
Are you ready to get strong? At NFC, we offer top-notch weight training and functional fitness, so you can build strength and improve your performance. Join today at NFC1.com or stop by any one of our
And here we go.
This was a huge waste of time, like bringing a married guy to Vegas.
Then there's this guy, the Dave Hooker Show with Caleb Calhoun. Represented by T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com, Tennessee's trial attorney. From the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln Studio, East Tennessee's #1 volume and customer service dealer, Ted Russell Ford and TedRussellLincoln.net. Now to the Dave Hooker Show on Off the Hook Sports.
All right, Caleb. We're going to move on from the stereotypes, if you don't mind. Is that okay with you?
I realized it hit in my head. Even the offensive line, which is your typical white position, 3 of the starting 5 offensive linemen on that team were black too.
I hate it when people say I don't see color, but I really don't. I mean, I have to think about it sometimes.
Okay,
Mercedes Hamilton, was he white or black? I don't know.
He was black. Jarvis Reeder was black. Yeah, I can't tell race sometimes. I see color. I'm not always good at deciphering race, but I do see, and I am curious, but I don't think it's wrong to see color. I think it's wrong to treat somebody different because you see them from that color. I don't think it's really wrong to see color, though. Like, I mean, what am I supposed to do? Like, see a black person and pretend like I don't know you're black? I obviously know you're black, and if I see you.
Obviously know you're black, but it doesn't need to be the main topic of conversation.
No, but it is kind of funny that I think the 11-11 for Tennessee really did just have 2 white players starting on that team, Spencer Riley and Chad Clifton. That was it.
All right, let's move forward. As we have plenty to get to today, and one is Derek Dooley. I have pointed out many times that I thought Derek Dooley was going to be an abject failure even midway through his tenure, and people didn't want to hear that. I probably said it, but I was kind of yelling into a thunderstorm, so to speak, or a hurricane. And Caleb, it was evident with Von Bell at Chattanooga that Derek Dooley didn't even go to one of his games or visit him. He didn't go to any high school games on a Friday night. I know that there were times where Lane Kiffin and Butch Jones played up the fact that they were at high school football games. There was the Lane Kiffin orange helicopter and all that good stuff. But at the end of the day, Caleb, Derek Dooley just didn't want to put in the effort. But the latest news is that he didn't even do a good job at talent evaluation. Rick Terry brings us the latest news. What the H, brought to you by Rick Terry Jewelry Design. Caleb, Derek Dooley didn't even want to recruit Matt Flynn.
Yeah, so I'm going to play the clip. It's from Jimbo Fisher. Jimbo Fisher and Derek Dooley were both on Nick Saban's staff at LSU in 2003. Jimbo Fisher was the offensive coordinator, obviously, and that's when Matt Flynn committed. Jimbo Fisher was recently on a podcast, I believe, with Jacob Hester, if I'm not mistaken, and told the story of recruiting Matt Flynn. So here we go.
Before we get into this, we would agree that, I'm curious, that Matt Flynn is a guy that you should recruit. Whether or not he would have been a college superstar or not, he was a guy that was at that level. Derek Dooley should have been all over him.
Yes, Matt Flynn is absolutely the type of college quarterback you should recruit, particularly when you're at LSU and you know you're loaded with talent elsewhere. You know Matt Flynn is a perfect fit for what you're doing. And so, yes, I totally agree with that. So I'll pull this up now, and this is what was said, what Jimbo Fisher said about Derek Dooley recruiting Matt Flynn. Here we go.
And there was a combine at A&M, and Derek Dooley had that part of Houston and down there, and there was a combine at A&M, and so Matt was going to be at that Nike combine. So I said, just go look at this guy. I just want to, this is a guy that may sneak under the radar that just we could get in on. I mean, we were on everybody in the country, but I said, I like this guy as well as anybody.
Yeah.
So Derek's a young coach. Derek goes to the combine. And so he comes back and he said, he's not overly tall. He said he's not really, but he said he moved pretty well. But he said, this and this now. He said, Jim, I just didn't like him. He said he had fat ankles. We come in and y'all scrimmage that day, and y'all threw like 25 passes. He threw like 25 passes in the scrimmage. Bang, bang, bang. Matt completes like 24 of them.
Yeah.
He's running around making plays, and he's throwing the ball all over. And, Nick come over to me. He looked at me. Said, Jimbo, this guy's a really good player. I said, I told you he's a really good player. He said, well, why didn't we do him? And I said, because Derek said he had fat ankles and he didn't look bad. He said he did, he wasn't nothing special. He told me, he said, get Derek on the phone. We're standing there watching the scrimmage. So I called Derek up. I said, hey, Nick wants to talk to you. Nick grabbed the phone. He said, hey, Derek, don't you ever recruit another, don't you ever evaluate another quarterback? This guy looks like Johnny Unitas running around here. He said, he's throwing every ball crazy. He looks good. Derek don't know what to say.
I'm about to be in a really unpopular position. I'm going to defend Derek Dooley.
What the H?
Wow, I never worked hard on anything. What a cool life.
For real? The Dave Hooker Show with Caleb Calhoun. Represented by T. Scott Jones. BanksandJones.com. Tennessee's trial attorney. From the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln Studio, East Tennessee's #1 volume and customer service dealer. Ted Russell Ford and TedRussellLincoln.net. Now to the Dave Hooker Show on Off the Hook Sports.
All right, Caleb. Your guy Hugh Freeze also evaluates players based off ankles. I'm going to say, as a former fat guy and a semi-fat guy, that there's something to be said for that. That if you're carrying a lot of body weight, I'm going to defend Derek Dooley here for just a second. You shouldn't be carrying a lot of body weight when you're heading into your senior year of high school and you've got college recruiters calling you. So I'm going to defend him a little bit. I've been to a lot of those camps in which I've tried to evaluate players just in terms of who I should cover and who I should not. Not that I offered that. Please hit like and subscribe. So I don't have a problem with that. I think that more coaches do that than you think. Fat ankle. Who you saw? Have you, Caleb? We lost you.
Sorry. There's a bird outside my office squealing really loud, believe it or not. Okay, so let me tell you why I push back. One, and as someone who cannot stand Hugh Freeze, I'll defend Hugh Freeze on evaluating ankles because Hugh Freeze's system, Dave, as you would know, requires a certain level of mobility for his quarterbacks. LSU with Jimbo Fisher was running a pro-style offense. They wanted a quarterback that can drop back and deliver the ball because they were just loaded with talent everywhere. It was a factory with Louisiana talent. You just needed a quarterback that could get those players the ball. You needed a quarterback that was Rick Clausen with a little bit stronger of an arm. That's all you ever needed at LSU during that time period. And we know this because Les Miles.
That really is Matt Flynn.
Yes, Rick Clausen with a stronger arm. And you know this because Les Miles won a national championship with Matt Flynn at quarterback. And Les Miles doesn't have 3 brain cells to rub together. Okay, so with that in mind, I am going to hold it against Derek Dooley because this is more indicative of a problem, Dave, which is, this when Derek Dooley was recruiting at Tennessee. You want to know why he hardly ever went to high school games a lot of times? Derek Dooley literally, and he admitted this, he had this massive evaluation process that was insane that by the time they were ready to recruit a player because he passed all their evaluation tests, they were way too late in the game to recruit him. This was a consistent problem. He had these, and he literally would they had to check every single box. He did it so analytically that by the time they were ready, as opposed to, let's talk Phil Fulmer, who I think for all criticisms was a pretty good instinctual evaluator of talent, right?
Yes, absolutely.
With Philip Fulmer, my guess is you show him a video clip of a high school highlight and he knows whether or not he wants the guy, right? Instinctually. He's like, I want that guy.
Within 5 plays.
Exactly. You show Derek Dooley 5 plays, he's then going to go to his stat sheet. He's going to go to his size, what he thinks he's going to grow. He's going to call every single coach and person around, and he's going to do all of that before he ever sends an offer out. And this is why he wasn't successful. He was so process-oriented to a fault. And I guess he somewhat got that from Nick Saban. But as you and I know, Dave, Nick Saban probably wasn't in the best position to be that way early on. He wouldn't be that way if he were at Tennessee trying to rebuild a program in 2010.
Well, Tennessee has a head coach that's supposedly an offensive guru, right?
Right.
That's his claim to fame. I would, however, take the guy who's a better talent evaluator over the offensive. Now that doesn't always hold true, but let's look at Nick Saban. The other thing about Derek Dooley is with Nick Saban, I know what he was great at. And that was coaching defensive backs. With Josh Heupel, I know what he's great at, and that is scheming up defenses. At least theoretically, that's what he's supposed to be great at. I still don't know what Derek Dooley was supposed to be great at to get a head coaching job in the SEC.
Well, what people thought was a couple of things. One, they thought he was a good recruiter because he was Saban's recruiting coordinator. One, people need to stop hiring recruiting coordinators. Recruiting is half the infrastructure of the program, almost as more the infrastructure of the program than it is your ability to recruit. Derek Dooley was recruiting in Louisiana at LSU. You know what he needed? Gas money. That's all he needed to recruit the state of Louisiana. And so that was, and then they thought, and then he would talk about how receivers and special teams were his specialty. But I'm like, but you aren't really a receivers coach at LSU. That was a title, so you could go recruit the state of Louisiana.
Okay, receivers. No, he was an average receiver in college, and I don't know that he coached anybody. If you want to look it up, you can. That was fantastic as a receiver moving on in the NFL. And special teams, I know we like to say special teams is a third of the game, but do the math. It's not.
It's not. It's not.
It's like a tenth. I mean, it's at best a tenth, Caleb. So I still don't know what Derek Dooley did.
It reminds me of how when Butch Jones said the center is the most important lineman because the center touches the ball every play. So what? He's not even more important than the left tackle in your offense, and you know.
Stat of the day brought to you by Rick Terry Jewelry Designs. They want to be your jeweler looking for affordable game day jewelry, a Tennessee tradition. RickTerryJewelry.com. Stat of the day is now.
Stat of the day. They never lie. Or do they? Stat of the day. The Dave Hooker Show with Caleb Calhoun. Off the Hook Sports.
Great post by Steve Sullivan. Dooley ruined orange pants for everyone. Did you ever like that look?
No, I always hated that look. It looks so hideous. And the fact that, and Derek Dooley would have them custom made. I'm like, why? Like again, this is why you were losing. You're doing the drywall in your office, or you're doing this, or you're doing that. And I'm like again, Derek Dooley is proof of yes, coaches in college need to have some CEO skills, but at their roots, they need to be ball guys, right?
Amen. Worst look, Philip Fulmer at the Swamp with some upper man body sweat, or Derek Dooley with the orange pants.
Dooley with the orange pants, because Dooley looked like a CEO. You know what Derek Dooley looked like? Okay, I'll just say this.
He looked like he walked from the one of the sky boxes and just coached the football team.
He looked like he was cast in a role to play an SEC coach in a Hollywood movie, not to actually be an SEC coach.
Yeah, Blindside, part 2. All right, Caleb, stat of the day is what?
Stat of the day is Tennessee baseball has advanced to the Super Regionals. Now, we're going to talk about this in a minute because the softball program was eliminated from the Women's College World Series. However, this means that every single time Tennessee baseball makes the tournament and the softball program makes the Women's College World Series, Tennessee baseball also makes the Super Regionals because they did it in 2005, 2020-23, and 2020-25. Now, the question is, will it continue? Because also Tennessee baseball, when they've made the NCAA tournament and the softball program has made the College World Series, Tennessee baseball has always advanced to the College World Series. Will they do it again? Well, we'll see.
The stat of the day brought to you again by our friends at Rick Terry Jewelry Design. The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. We broadcast live from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln Studios. Coming up, how big of a deal is it that Tennessee advanced to the Super Regional? Tennessee softball team was eliminated, and I'm curious where this pecking order might be with and we're going to discuss this more tomorrow with a special guest, the women's game. I think there's something to be said for having this sort of promotion that Tennessee will have in the Super Regional in terms of helping the football program. Because, Caleb, at the end of the day, It's all about football. That's 90% of the revenue. The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com, as we broadcast live from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln Studios with Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker. Give me 2 minutes, and I'll tell you why Tennessee's move into the Super Regional is big deal for Tennessee's football team.
Like a blast from the past, the Super Dealer is back. Look to the skies, Knoxville. The Super Dealer is fighting for price, service, and the American-made. Ted Russell Ford is East Tennessee's #1 volume Ford dealer. Save up to $4,350 on a new Ford F-150 XLT, or get into a new Ford Ranger XLT with no payments for 90 days. Come see the Super Dealer today at either Ted Russell Ford location, Parkside Drive, or Kingston Pike.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
Community banking is about location and much more. It's about family. We reside in your community. We are a part of your community. At Commercial Bank, our commitment extends beyond the walls of our branches. It's displayed each day in the opportunities we provide, the money we give back, and the time we commit, all to help improve the lives of the people, families, and businesses that make our communities great. Commercial Bank, life made better.
Double D Piping provides full-service fire protection on any scale. From residential homes to government facilities, we can assist any customer through design, fabrication, installation, inspection, and demonstration of fire suppression systems. With 30 years of service across 5 states and a full staff with over 40 years experience, our quality can't be beaten. Don't get caught watching what you could have prevented. Call Double D Piping.
And here we go.
This was a huge waste of time, like bringing a married guy to Vegas.
Then there's this guy, the Dave Hooker Show with Caleb Calhoun. Represented by T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com, Tennessee's trial attorney. From the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln Studio, East Tennessee's #1 volume and customer service dealer, Ted Russell Ford and TedRussellLincoln.net. Now to the Dave Hooker Show on Off the Hook Sports.
A post on the message board by Steve. Fulmer with the sweater tucked in made a definite fashion statement. I have to be honest with you, I don't remember that at all.
I remember the sweater vest. I don't remember it being tucked in.
That's not a good look, if so.
Now, people that are does anybody want to, Dave, do you know? You may not. It's a random trivia I know. Do you know the story of why Johnny Majors wore a suit and tie on the sideline?
I don't know the reason why, but I know a lot of people did, and Tom Landry did.
Yes. Well, Johnny Majors wasn't initially. He wore the collared shirt, with the Tennessee T logo on it for the longest time. But in 1986, Charles Davis got to Tennessee and asked Johnny Majors when he was in a suit and tie, I guess at some press conference, why don't you wear that on the sideline? Growing up, all the coaches that I saw wore coat and tie on the sideline. And Johnny Majors, wanting to set an example, agreeing with Charles Davis on setting an example for his players, decided to wear a coat and tie on the sideline after that, from then on. So
interesting. I did not know that. Hello, this is Charles. Every time you call his number, that's the way he answers, by the way. Have I told you that before?
We may have, but it's good to hear.
Sounds so energetic.
And also, I have to point this out: when coaches wear ties in today's game, I'm sorry, y'all can be like, "Oh, I like the nice dress." I'm like, when you're dressing that nice as a coach, it seems like you're giving off a vibe more than you're actually showing your abilities. It seems like who are the coaches that wear ties now? Al Golden wore one. PJ Fleck wears one.
You're not allowed to in the NFL, just as a for instance.
That is interesting. I did not know that. Wow.
Yeah, you're not allowed to dress like Tom Landry.
Yeah. Well, and Tom Landry, wearing the suit and tie. Yeah, and Tom Landry also let the Dallas Cowboys franchise become a complete laughingstock in the 80s. So,
I'm
you
not.
know, you had to. It took
Tom Landry randomly.
It took firing Tom. Yes, Tom Landry. Okay, without the crimes against humanity, do you not agree he carried himself like he was God and above everybody else? And I think that's what hurt the Cowboys.
He was a hardcore pro, and you were going to get fired if you didn't do your job.
And then he didn't feel like he deserved to get fired because he wasn't doing his job in Dallas.
There were some more issues there, but we'll
Jimmy Johnson saved the franchise.
Oh, well, I mean, I'm not going to argue with you there. But I mean, you could say Jerry Jones saved the franchise. All right, let's move forward here. As Tennessee, their baseball team moves on to the Super Regional, the boss ball team. What? Softball. Yes, softball team eliminated from the College World Series. Your argument is that softball matters more than baseball. And it's brought to you by Commercial Bank, Tennessee's not Commercial Bank, member FDIC, Life Made Better. I'm curious where you're going here.
Yes. I think Monday, it's always, when your teams are in the tournament together, whether or not it's the men's and women's basketball tournaments or the men's and women's baseball and softball tournaments, it's always bittersweet when one advances and one loses, right? But traditionally, just because they're bigger revenue generators, I mean, this is unfortunate, but it's true. You're probably rooting for if you ask a Tennessee basketball fan, all right, would you rather the Vols or Lady Vols advance in this game? You probably are going to say the men's team in basketball, right? Just because it's a revenue generator. It's like the second biggest sport on campus. More people.
Yes.
Same with baseball and softball. Would you rather baseball advance or softball advance?
Baseball, not close.
Yeah, you're going to pick baseball. Here's the thing. However, I think yesterday the softball loss is worse than it outweighs the baseball win, and here's why. Tennessee baseball outweighs softball overall, but neither sport is that relevant compared to the other sports because they're not revenue generators. What's the biggest reason you root for the baseball program or the Lady Vols or whatever? You want to see Tennessee be an everything school. That's the biggest reason you root for the pride of Tennessee being an everything school. Baseball already won its national title. I think many Tennessee fans want to see softball get a national title to add to the list of schools that won one. Softball should have gotten one in 2007 when they had Monica Abbott, but then there was not her fault, but she got no run support the last two games. They had the best pitcher this year in Carolyn Pickens, or one of the best, two or three. I think Texas Tech might have the best, but they, I think, again, thought they could do it this year, but they had a walk. They were eliminated after losing to Texas yesterday, but the biggest reason they were eliminated is because in their first game, because it's a double elimination tournament, they gave up a walk-off home run to Oklahoma with 2 outs. I think if you had polled Tennessee fans, many of them, they would have actually preferred softball win yesterday rather than baseball when both were facing elimination games.
We discussed this at our 3:45 a.m. production meeting, and I completely disagree. I think that the baseball program, because of Tony Vitello, that's no shot at the coaching staff of the softball team, but I think that he's so likable, and this program has overcome an ego issue that I think they had, Caleb. I don't think it's close. I think that if the average fan is polled, he would much rather, and we can make this a bold question, he would much rather see the baseball program move on as opposed to the football program.
Okay. In general, yes, but not this year because baseball just won a national title. I think you would rather see softball win a national title than baseball win its second national title. I would. I think there's so much value in adding softball to your repertoire in terms of national title sports. Technically, there are, now I think it's ridiculous that all these sports are classified, but Dave, there are 6 classified major sports in college athletics: football, men's and women's basketball, baseball, softball, and volleyball. Tennessee does have a national title now in 3 of those sports. Should have one in softball, should have it in 4. I don't know why volleyball counts as one, but it does. With that in mind, I do think that more people would care about softball getting one just so they can get one. And actually, General Ursus has a great point. Karen Weekly is the softball version of Rick Barnes for men's basketball. They just keep knocking on the door, and they can't knock it down. It seems like it's the Bo Schemblicher talk with Michigan. But I think people would want to see Tennessee softball knock down the door because they've been knocking at it so many times, and they already got one in baseball. Last year, I would agree with you. Up until last year, you'd rather it in baseball. Fine. But because baseball got one, I think there is an idea of we'd love to get one in softball now to knock this out.
Bank on It brought to you by Commercial Bank. I'm going to share with you something that I was told about Tennessee under their current athletic administration and why they're having more success in other sports. It's a simple thing, but it's something. Member FDIC, Life Made Better, Commercial Bank.
Commercial Bank is your neighborhood bank. What makes us different from other banks? We understand that every customer has unique opportunities, challenges, and financial concerns. We don't expect you to fit into the same box as the next person or business. Whether it's purchasing a home, saving for your child's future, or planning for your next vacation, we're with you every step of the way to navigate life's big decisions.
Cooper Mays here. Hit like and subscribe.
Okay, Doug Dickey never said, I want to be an okay program. He never said that, even though he helped lead Tennessee to a national championship as Tennessee's athletic director in the 90s. However, actions speak louder than words. I was told that Danny White opened up a lot of things to other athletes outside of football. That includes something as simple as the cafeteria, which is marvelous, by the way. They used to have the media there for media day every Tuesday, and you could eat, and it's unbelievable. It's a simple thing, Caleb, but I think it's a big deal. And that's part of the reason that Tennessee's baseball program and Tennessee's softball program is at a high level. I think Danny White, including everyone and not making it a football-only school, which you're never going to say publicly, but it's still something that actions speak louder than words, as I mentioned before. He chose not to do that on many different occasions, and he did make it an all-athletic school, or whatever the term is he used. But ultimately, whether or not it's a commercial for your football team or not, it helps the athletic program as a whole.
It does. It also puts them in a bind, because are you ready for the one thing they're about to have to deal with, Dave, that's going to be difficult? I lost you, by the way.
You got me.
No, okay, there we go. That's difficult. Okay, so here's what they're going to have to deal with that's difficult. You know, with this $20 million that the House settlement's going to allow schools to give players $20 million in salaries, just deviate $20 million in payments, direct payments to players. Everything schools, you're going to see some of the smaller sport players come with their hands out and say, "Hey, look at what we've done. We deserve a cut of that $20 million." Now, you and I are like, no, $18 million deserves to go to football. Period. End of story. But you don't think baseball is going to come with their hand out and say, and Tony Vitello is going to be like, "Look what I've done with this baseball program. I should get some of that money."
I really don't. And here's why. I think a lot of the baseball players, now softball is a different story. I think a lot of the baseball players have the option to go straight to the not majors necessarily, but go to professional baseball and make money. So they don't feel like they're beholden to some greater power that's not giving them money. I think a lot of football players felt that way. And I think it led to bad chemistry, not only at Tennessee, but any other program, to see a coach making $4 million and you're making $0.
And then the coach says it's wrong to pay players.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be a baseball thing. I really don't. I think there's a camaraderie there. I think there's an understanding that if you want to go pro, you can. But once you enter into college baseball, you have 3 years that you got to put in. I don't think that's going to be an issue. I don't. But as a side note, I don't understand how the 3-year rule is even legal, to be real honest with you. Well, I mean, how could you enter a contract and say that I can't leave to go get another job? I mean, it's
well, no, you can leave. You just can't go to the majors. Will sit there and say we won't take you unless either out of high school or 3 years later. So it's it is a weird one, but you can maybe make the same thing on the one and done in college basketball. Or is one and done antitrust legal? I don't know. I mean, that's
doesn't feel that way.
Yeah, but then again, if you do that, you open the door in football. What happens if you start letting like people come straight out of high school to go play in the NFL?
Fair.
I mean,
T. Scott Jones will join us tomorrow. We'll get the latest on the Zakai Ziegler lawsuit. The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. For Caleb Calhoun, I'm Dave Hooker. We broadcast live from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln Studios, East Tennessee's largest volume dealer on Parkside Drive and on